So the two biggest lessons I have learned so far from raising twins. The second one, I think it might be hard for some people to guess, but the first one was, don't worry about being late. If you're late, you're late. No one's going to die. It's not the end of the world. It really doesn't matter. And that really drilled at home with me, because if you have children, you know how long it can take sometimes to get out the house with one child. Sometimes, like even a baby, you know, you're just about to go out the door, they start crying because they want feeding, and then they need a nappy change, you know. So can you imagine that times two? I mean, I remember once I was leaving a friend for a doctor's appointment. I had an hour to leave and get there. It literally was like a 15-20 minute drive. Anyway, I ended up being late because that's exactly what happened to me. One wanted feeding, then the other one wanted feeding, then one had a poo, the next one had a poo. I think the first one, like, it had gone over their clothes and I had to change their whole outfit. And initially I was feeling a little bit panicked, thinking, oh no, I'm going to miss the appointment, I'm going to be late, going to have to make another one. Or, they might get annoyed because dentists and doctors can be a bit funny when you're late with things, which is fine. But it just really taught me, like, actually just slow and just breathe, and it's okay. Again, so what if you're late? So what if you miss it and you have to make another one? If it's life and death, then you're going to be seen. So it really, really doesn't matter. So it just took that unconscious pressure of what I would put on myself to be on time for, like, taking my other children to school and things. It's like, actually, it doesn't matter, and it's actually not worth the stress in the body, like when I was making myself rush. So just to let go of that. And so the second biggest lesson I learned from having my twins, which I appreciate so much, is, so my parenting style is very different. If it had to have a label on it, it would be unschooling. I used to radically unschool. So for anybody that doesn't know, unschooling is basically where you're completely child-led. So it doesn't mean that you're putting the child's needs always ahead of your own, because there are times, like, a mother's sanity is number one, because everything spills from that space. But it is just being more child-led. So that just means if they're not hungry at breakfast, fine, don't eat. If they don't want to wear a coat outside in the freezing cold, it doesn't matter. It's fine. If they want to go to bed later, that's fine. Why do we have these set things in place that we think everybody's going to thrive? So it's just being more child-led. And so radical unschooling is where you kind of let it slip into their food, what they're eating. And what I found was allowing my daughter to eat whatever she wanted. She would eat the full range of the food group, but it wouldn't just be in one day. It would be spread over a week period. And then with films and what she wanted to eat, and, the films being over her age, I would just explain that, okay, you can watch it, but this is the X rating, and this is the rating, because there might be swearing, there might be like sexual things, it might be very violent, and I think it actually might be too much for you. But you build a relationship of trust. So that's like radically unschooling, to try and put it in a nutshell. And so with my twins, what it was they were so different in so many ways. So the lesson they gave me was actually faith in my parenting style of being child-led. So I have a boy and a girl, my twins, and so they are so different. So my boy, he is an internal learner. He's like a little sponge who will sit and observe. Whereas my daughter, his twin, is an external learner. She's a kinesthetic learner. She's more hands-on. My boy, he's very like typical academic. My daughter is very emotionally intelligent when it comes to food. He's always had, my boy, a massive, massive sweet tooth. Whereas my daughter, she will eat pretty much most things that you put in front of her. She really loves meat, whereas my boy barely eats meat. Even their sleeping, sleeping has been absolutely, completely different. Sorry, my alarm's going off. Whereas he's been a really quick sleeper, just will go to sleep all the way through, whereas it would take her a while to get off to sleep, and then she'd wake up really early. So from day one, they've been so different. Even I remember at like 5 months old, he would stand in front of the television and just watching, taking everything that was being shown on YouTube with like shapes and numbers and things like that. Whereas my daughter, she would just be at the door looking outside, and she'd want to engage with what you are doing. And so this is a massive lesson, even if you don't have twins, because what that tells me and you is that they know, their bodies know. When a child is, especially when they're breastfed, we trust them to let us know when they are hungry, to stop eating when they are full. And I don't know why, but it comes to a point that when we are weaning them and they are moving on to solid food, all of a sudden we seem to think that we know what their body needs. These are the times, these are the foods. And so we take control of that, and if you're a slightly stricter parenting style, especially because that's how most people my age were raised, was that, you eat at this time and you finish all the food, on your table, and you have to eat your vegetables. And as I said to you, what my twins showed me is that actually their bodies have completely different needs, So I don't know if you've ever, I've certainly done it in the past where I'm cooking and they're like, I'm hungry, can I have this? It's like, no, it's going to spoil your appetite. Well, actually their appetite is right now. That's why they want food. The same as when you are absolutely starving, hungry, and you need something, to have to wait for somebody to finish cooking a whole meal for you to be able to eat. Like, your body is hungry in that moment and needs something in that moment. And so the kind of the back end of that lesson, what it taught me, is that in allowing their body and their needs and their wants and desires to lead the way of what their sleeping pattern might be, what their food habits might be, whether like the times that they eat sweet food, savory food, the types of food. When you allow that, you actually help them to be in touch with their body. And this for me is massive. Coming from a background of mental health, and how many of us have been, or still now, completely detached from our bodies when it's stressed, anxious, worried, to the point a lot of people are manifesting physical illness because all of this stress lowers the immunity, we know that it manifests illness in the body because we've become so detached to what our bodies needs. A lot of people, I know it's a slight tangent, but a lot of people, if you've got a headache or whatever, sore back, taking a tablet for it. But when you do that, you're overriding your body. You keep going when your body's telling you to rest that back or, rest that head, overriding it. And so this, for me, again, is very important when we follow our children and what it is that their body wants, and teaches them to be connected to their body and the flow of their body. I think it strengthens the intuition, and I think that it teaches them to just be connected here first. And from my own experience, when you are connected here, it's a lot easier to be connected to everybody else. And I know that might seem quite different, or like, oh, okay, well, how can allowing their body to eat what they want and sleep what they want, and how can it lead to that? But we are holistic beings, and when we look after one area of our body, it will spill into everything else. And so that is why my second biggest lesson from having twins is just realizing a child knows what they need. Now, do not get me wrong. I know that there are times when they want to override, when they're tired. and stay up later than what they should be. But actually, what I've learned is if you allow them that space, they wouldn't want to do it all the time, because they can learn from their own mistakes of feeling rubbish the next day. But it's only for allowing them to have that space and contrast that builds that connection of trust with their body and listening to their body. So I don't know why that went so up. Anyway, if you've got any questions, anything specific, or if you want to share anything that will help another viewer, then please do. All right, so much love, so much blessings. Bye.